One. We are live. Greetings, greetings, family. Welcome, welcome. Absolutely fantastic to have you join us this Wednesday evening, Ujama Day. We tried to do this particular interview last Wednesday, but the technologies, the internet decided otherwise. But I am delighted, absolutely delighted that we are indeed live today. And as you can see, I've got my guest in the studio with me, our beloved, esteemed Elder Chaba Addai-Sebo. Welcome, welcome, Elder Chaba. How are you?
I'm very, very fine. Thank you very much in my small village near Accra, Ghana.
Oh, what a wonderful, wonderful place to be. I'm sure it's beautiful. For those of us who've never been to Ghana, give us a description of what your village in Ghana is actually like.
Oh, it's an urbanized village. It used to be a small village that was known for growing pineapples and vegetables, greens, and all that. But Accra has expanded and eating up all the villages surrounding it. So we are lucky to have a small patch and where we have some greenery and all that around us. So it was about maybe 10, 15 years ago that we moved here, and I planted a lot of trees that has brought the bird life, animal life in the area, and it's made the place cooler a little bit from the heat. So that is where we are. It's called Asofa. And Asofa, incidentally, also is the birthplace of a very wonderful lady who worked closely with Marcus Garvey in the 1920s and 30s. She's called Ayoko Kofi. And she's in Florida. She was an evangelist and worked closely with Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And he was one of the most powerful spokesperson of Marcus Mosiah Garvey in the South. And she got killed, just like Malcolm X got killed. And so this is the village that she comes from, where I live presently with my family.
Wow. You said she got killed. How was she killed?
She was speaking at a church hall, and then some Union people raided the place and then killed her.
Wow.
In fact, it's something that Union doesn't want to talk about, because I have tried to talk to my colleagues in Union, in Chicago, in New York, Washington, D.C., and all that, but it's something that they don't want to discuss it, and I don't understand why. They just don't want to discuss it. They don't want to discuss it. There is something. Okay, now it's better. Okay. Sorry.
Wow.
So
tell us her name again.
I don't know. It's very sensitive. Maybe it's very sensitive. Just the only thing that I can say is that she was killed like Malcolm was killed by her own people.
Wow. So tragic. That's so tragic. Tell us her name. Can you tell us her name again, please, so that we can resurrect. You've resurrected her memory. Let's resurrect her name as well.
Laura Ayoko.
Laura Ayoko.
Kofi. Kofi. Laura Ayoko Kofi.
Laura Ayoko Kofi. Wow.
Yes.
We remember you, Laura. We remember you for your great works. Wow. So she was a Garveyite in
Correct.
Ghana.
Yes.
Doing the work.
Mm.
Wow. You know, so many people have lost their lives, haven't they, doing
Yes.
the works and sacrificing, you know, making that huge sacrifice. And you mentioned the man himself, Marcus Messiah Garvey. You may not be able to see this because I'm on a green screen here, but I've actually got a handbook, which is a tribute to Marcus Messiah Garvey. I wrote it a little while ago, and it's available free of charge via my Gumroad site. So I'll make sure you get the link, Elder Akyaaba, if you
Okay.
haven't already got it. And to anyone else out there who would like this tribute handbook to Marcus Messiah Garvey, one of our great visionary leaders, you know, it's the sort of book that when you read it, it will inspire you. And I particularly wrote it so that it would inspire our young people, the next generation, who we want to rise up so that they can be all that they can be and more. And, you know, Marcus Garvey, he was a beacon, wasn't he, of hope and light and for us as a people. And, you know, he walked the talk as well. So in terms of the changes that he brought about, you know, the lives that he impacted, wow, the triumphs, you know, he's a man that will inspire our young people. So family, make sure you get that. It's on my Gumroad site. So go to Sister Shanice, sister is at A, Sista, Shanice, Sister Shanice.gumroad.com. I think that's it. I'll get the link in a little while and I will post it in the chat. So we want to welcome everybody who's joining us via the chat. We'll be going over to the chat in a very little while. I'm just going to be posting the link here as well to let people know that we are live and that they can actually join us now because, wow, what a very interesting show we've got lined up for you, family. As you can see, I've got my esteemed elder in the house. He is with us today. We're going to be having a conversation about the great Dr. Thomas Mensah, a technological genius who's recently left us. But we remember him, just like we're remembering just now Laura Ayakom Kofi. We're going to be remembering our elder Dr. Thomas Mensah. And let me ask our wonderful guest, Dr. Chaba, Elder Akyaaba, to introduce himself to you. And as he's doing his introductions, please post in the chat where you're viewing us from. Let us know where in the world you are. Let us know that you're in the house, and I will come to you afterwards, our wonderful audience. Our beloved Elder Akyaaba Addai-Sebo, such a privilege, such an honor to have you join us today. You're not a stranger to this platform. We did a marvelous event a couple of years ago in celebration of Kwame Nkrumah, and it's a pleasure to have you back again. My elder, I wonder if you could just introduce yourself, please, to our audience.
That's a tall act because I find it very difficult to talk about myself. But I'm credited for being the founder of Black History Month in the United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And but basically and professionally, I'm a peacemaker. I help to settle conflicts, conflict resolution, preventive diplomacy, using diplomacy and talk, not jaw, to not war, sorry, to make it possible for rebels and governments to come together and reach an agreement. So I was basically responsible for facilitating an end to the civil wars in Liberia and Sierra Leone as a special envoy of International Alert. And apart from that also, something that I think I have shelved. I was also an organizer. What do the title that I had of the Notting Hill Carnival?
Oh,
The Notting Hill Carnival between 1989 and then 1993. I worked closely with, during the time of Claire Holder, as the chair of Notting Hill Carnival Committee. I was the operations manager. Operations manager means responsible for the organization of the carnival. So we came into the carnival at a critical period where the organization was facing tremendous difficulties and also problems with the police, problems with the boroughs, and the image was poor. So we were drafted in to come and try and rebrand the carnival, which we did successfully. And we increased the attendance to about 2 million people coming into the Notting Hill Carnival area, London area, and about 60% come from outside. And that means when they're in London, they spend a lot of money. The hotels and the restaurants and others, they generate a lot of money. So that is what I was involved in with the Notting Hill Carnival. And it's not mentioned, but I think it's important that your listening audience know that I have contributed a great deal to the second largest public event in the whole world. The first one is the Rio Carnival. Then the second one is the Notting Hill Carnival. Then the Trinidad Carnival comes third. But Notting Hill Carnival is the second largest. And
we're up
there. Thank you. Yeah, so that is enough of me. Thank you.
Oh, wow, some phenomenal achievements there. Oh, wow. Being able to negotiate peace between, the rebels and the governors of Liberia and Sierra Leone back then. It was just today I was watching a report, my elder, about the situation in Sudan. And I was thinking, what can be done? What can we do to bring peace into that region? We've got some radicalized African Muslims, who are slaughtering their African brothers in the name of, their religion. And it's just tearing my heart to pieces. I'm seeing, the destruction, the extent to which, our people are being displaced, the murders, the genocide, and it looks as though we're doing it to ourselves. But the real players are those who we don't see, the ones who are financing it. The UAE, the Arabs, the European warmongers who are financing these wars, who are supplying the arms and ammunition to these rebel groups so that they can go in and cause, mayhem, destruction, and to chase the people off of their land, because there are those who are waiting to move in and take over the land for the rich minerals underneath it. My elder, if you was to leave us with some words of wisdom, and if you were able to communicate with those rebels and those rogue governments in the region, what would your advice be?
Sudan tears my heart, particularly Darfur.
Yes.
Darfur was a place where the Arabs bred human beings that you breed horses.
Wow.
They bred strong Africans, crossbreeding Africans, so that they should go to their harems and all that and serve. So that is what Darfur, they used to do in Darfur. So, but the issue of Sudan is the significance of Sudan. Sudan, Uganda, Egypt, that stretch of land, that spine, is Africa's spinal cord, all the way to the base, to the, what you call Lake Victoria, which shouldn't be. It's our spinal cord. And it means everything to us. And the Europeans and the Arabs and the Americans, they know this. They know this. So when you look at even the pyramids in Sudan are older than those in Egypt.
Yes.
You see, so that is the basis of who we are, everything, and it has been captured. You see, it's just like what Nkrumah used to say about Congo. We cannot allow the imperialists to take Congo, because Congo is the heart of Africa. So if you take over Congo, you've taken over the heart of Africa. So we should do everything to ensure that they don't succeed in their plans in the Congo in the 1960s. So it was dear to Nkrumah. Everybody should get a copy of Challenge of the Congo, Nkrumah's book, The Challenge of the Congo, and read it. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how to, a telephone came. What do I do to stop calls coming in?
Yeah, it should say end call. Maybe if you see something that says end, then you can end it. But we're seeing you fine.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're seeing you fine, and it's not interfering with your book.
So the Sudan is something that is not a Sudanese problem. In like Haiti, Haiti is not a problem of Haiti alone, like the Congo. It is a Pan-African problem. And unless we begin to understand that it is our Pan-African responsibility, because the Europeans are working hand in hand as one unit. The Arabs are working hand in hand as one unit. What about us? That is why Nkrumah called for the African High Command. You see, so Haiti, Sudan, the Congo can only be approached from the Pan-African perspective or continental perspective. But unfortunately, the African Union that we all wanted is not what we have now. Gaddafi, first it was Nkrumah, and Africa did not get what it wanted. Africa was fashioned after the Organization of American States, OAS, which Nkrumah basically was devastated, but he had to go with it. Then Gaddafi also came, trying to pick up from where Nkrumah left off, for us to get together, form a new African Union. Again, the forces and internal African resistance was so huge. They poisoned the minds of African heads of state that Gaddafi wants to be the new emperor of Africa, just like what they used to tell, said that Nkrumah wants to be the star, the Tsar of Africa, like a Russian star, you see. So it didn't work. So we cannot tackle the problem of Sudan in isolation. But listen, you are in the Gambia. When they wanted to get rid of Jammeh, what did they do? They coupled together the ECOWAS countries and the ECOMOG, and they came to get rid of somebody they wanted out, and they got rid of him. So if they can do that, what does it teach us? That if we come together, we can deal with the problem of Sudan. We can deal with the problem of the Congo. We can deal with the problem of Haiti. That is the responsibility that behoves on all of us Pan-Africans. Because what is sad is that when you look at Africa, you cannot point to any single liberated country. Africa has been totally recolonized. Africa has been totally recolonized. We used to have Ghana, we used to have Guinea, we used to have Egypt, we used to have Tanzania. They were acting on their own, they were strong and strong, but all these, right now, they are all gone. And we have Bantustans. I call them Bantustans. They are all teleguided from the metropolis by the White House, the Whitehall, Elysee in Paris, Germany, even Norway. All of them are dictating things. Australia, Canada, they are all these dictating things in Africa. So it's our responsibility to again go back to the drawing table and say that we are going to liberate Africa again. We have to get that into our consciousness, that we have to reorganize ourselves and go back to take our Africa back. Because what exists now is not our Africa. It is an Africa of United States and its NATO allies. I don't want to talk about China and the Soviet Union. That is another issue, but I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about Europe and America. Europe and America. And the problem that we are facing stems from their colonization, imperialism, and the appropriation of Africa, and then making our leaders so frightened that they have gotten frayed nerves. And you have an ambassador, the American ambassador in your capital, and the American ambassador call the shots. It shouldn't happen. During Nkrumah's time, it was not so. I was privileged to have attended, I was young then, an event at the castle. And you could see that the European ambassadors, they were struggling to catch the eye of Nkrumah. They could not get close to him. They could just not get close to him. And they were struggling to catch his eyes. That was the power and the aura that Nkrumah had. But now these things have changed. And our own heads of states, when the American ambassador or the British ambassador say jump, they will say how high. This is the sad event that we have. And so coming back to the issue of Sudan, if we don't straighten up the African Union, and its leadership, we cannot straighten up Sudan. If we cannot straighten up the African Union and its leadership, we cannot straighten up the Congo. If we cannot straighten up the African Union and its leadership, we cannot straighten up Haiti. Can you imagine Haiti knocking on the doors of the African Union that they want to be full members? And you have countries like Nigeria and others opposing it. How can that be? How can that be? How can that be in the 21st century? It shouldn't happen. So it is us, it is you and I. It is our consciousness and our refusal to be a party to this wholesale sellout that will bring about change. Because that was what Nkrumah, Cyril James, Marcus Garvey, all of them, Yasantua, all of them, Lumumba, they said no to the European system that is misruling us and exploiting us and dehumanizing us. So we have to reject it. And it is you and I that can make that difference. And we have to organize ourselves and take example of what Nkrumah and others were able to do. That is the challenge facing us. I don't know whether I am making sense, I'm hitting home. Because please, if you cast your eyes around Africa, you cannot point to any liberated territory where you can launch the process of liberating the rest of Africa or the Congo. Ghana became a liberated zone under Nkrumah. So Nkrumah was able to use the resources of Ghana to support the liberation movements and the freedom fighters across Africa. Ghana gains in independence in 1957. And in 1958, it called an All Peoples African Conference in Accra and brought the freedom fighters, liberation movements, and all of them to Accra. And he, Fanon, and others, they charged them up. And they went back. So between 57, at that time, 58, including Ghana, including Ethiopia, including Liberia, and the Northern African states, there were 8 independent African nations. And by 1963, 24 independent African countries had joined up with the 8 to be 32 to go to Addis Ababa and form the Organization of African Unity. Such pace of liberation has never happened anywhere in the world or any continent. And we should take pride in that. Absolutely. So that is the challenge. It's a lesson for us to understand that without a territory that you control and you have a sense of mission and purpose and commit that country to execute that mission and purpose, you are not getting anywhere. So if we want Haiti to be free, Sudan to be free, the Congo to be free, we need a territory or a couple of territories to liberate it. So you remember what we call the frontline states. The frontline states, which took Zambia as a frontline. And they organized themselves to provide support for the liberation of the Southern African countries under apartheid rule. So we have all these experiences that unity is a force. Unity is a force to deal with. It's a force to reckon with. So united, we can make a difference. That is the lesson, that is the message I want to pass on to us. And please, Africa is yours. Africa is yours. Let no one invite you to be an African. Let no one, I happen to be born in Ghana. I could have been born in Trinidad. I could have been born in Mexico. But I happen to be born in Ghana. That doesn't make me a super African or whatever, maybe because I have a language. That myth has to be broken, because most of you who happen not to have been born in Africa, you know more about Africa than we who was supposed to be born in Africa. That is the truth. That is the truth. So Africa is yours. Own it.
Own it.
Yes. That is what the example of Stevie Wonder is telling you. That is the example of Stevie Wonder. Don't wait, it's yours. Take possession of it. Rita Marley, that's the example that they have done. That was the example of W.B. Du Bois. To Ghana and settled. And I never lied. Some people say that Du Bois died in exile. How can you say that? How can you say that? He came home to die and contribute and die. So how can you say that he died in exile? Well, how can you say that? It never happened. That means your consciousness is low. Please carry on, my sister.
Rise up. Thank you so much. Rise up, Brother Errol. He says, Africa is born in us. Yes, indeed. There are many of us in the so-called diaspora, those of us who were born outside of Africa. But although we were born outside of Africa, Africa was indeed born in us. And we are no less an African because we were born outside of the continent. You know, Africa... it's in our DNA. Rise up, Brother Kwame Aboje as well. He says, I'm an African despite I was born outside of our mama land. Yes, indeed. Rise up, Sister Afri-Jama in the house, reminding everyone to give us a thumbs up and give us a like. Yes, please do. The Jamaican Junkos in the house. Welcome, welcome. Jamaican Junko, yes. And so, yes, Kenya has problems with her neighbors in Sudan and leaving all the way from East Africa and heading to Haiti when their neighbors are catching hell. Lots of body bags going back to Canada, Kenya. He's saying, yes, indeed. You know, why are, as our beloved Elder Akyaaba is saying, you know, our African leaders not coming together in unity to try and help resolve the problems that we're facing in Sudan? Where is that independent territory where this coming together can happen? It's good to see what's happening in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Will they be able to grow into the empire that they once were in the past, that great empire? Could that be, you know, the state that we need from which we can come together in unity and resolve some of the problems that we've got on the continent? Want to rise up, Gates so Fair, who's in the house as well, saying, I'm here at home having a nice home-cooked meal as I listen to the show. As always, I'm wishing Africa and our people a better tomorrow. Thank you so much. Kwame is reminding us 54 of our African nations makes the OAU and not the so-called African Union, he says. And want to rise up, each of you who are sending us messages in the chat. Sister Verna's in the house. Rise up, Sister V. Good to see you in the house. From Phenomenal Black Women as well. You know, it's great, absolutely fantastic to have our family join us this evening. I'm going to scroll through and welcome some more of you as we go through the evening. Please do post your messages, and I'll certainly be coming back and reading some of your messages. We have our esteemed Elder Akyaaba Addai-Sebo in the house, and he's introduced himself. We've also had a bit of a conversation about Sudan and the situation there. Let's never forget Sudan. Let's never forget the genocide that's happening there. Most of us are focused on the genocide that's happening against the Arabs in Palestine, but then we have in Sudan Arabized Africans who are committing genocide against their own brother. Our beloved, who has experience of bringing about peace in these sorts of situations, is saying that we absolutely, every single one of us, has to make it clear we're not going to be part of this sellout, that allows the Europeans to come in and take control of Africa. We've got to refuse to be party to the sellout European system. We have to absolutely reject it, and we have to call for the frontline African states to come together. He reminds us, family, that Sudan, Uganda, Egypt, that's the spinal cord of Africa. Those regions are ancient. They've been around from ancient of days. The spinal cord of Africa, Congo, the heart of Africa. These people are targeting the spinal cord and the heart of Africa, and they're year on year encroaching more. The Arabs are encroaching from the north more and more into Africa itself. They're seizing land, they're seizing territory for its riches, for its history, to claim its heritage, and they don't want the people in the region. And so, our people are suffering, family, suffering. It's a major challenge for us to deal with during our time. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to encourage our leaders to do about it, family? We cannot turn a blind eye. Africa is our homeland, and it must absolutely be retained, for us and for our future generations. Because if we don't take care of our business on the motherland, if we don't take care of Africa, then there's going to be others, family, that are going to come in and try and take over Africa and take the continent away from us, just in the same way that they have taken away so much more, family, of the world in the places where we were, because we were the original people of the world. We were around for hundreds of thousands of years before there was even a European. And where are all of our lands now? They have been taken away. And so, family, we need to make sure that we hold on to what we've got and don't lose another inch of that wonderful, beautiful continent of ours that today we are calling Africa. Wow. So, Jamaica Drum Club, good to have you in the house. Everybody who's in the house, we thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be going over now to give credit to a great man who has recently passed. His name is Dr. Thomas Mensah. And before we go into talking about Dr. Thomas Mensah, let's set the context, because he was born during a time that we've been talking about when, Africa was at the forefront of liberating itself. It was part of this struggle for freedom. Kwame Nkrumah, whose name has already been mentioned, he had taken control of Ghana. He was setting up, universities. He had a great vision for Africa. And, those in the age group of Elder Akyaaba and Dr. Thomas Mensah would have been inspired by Kwame Nkrumah, would have wanted to learn and study the sciences and the technologies so that they could, bring all of that home to Ghana and to Africa. So Africa could have been the beneficiary of these geniuses that we had, but set the context because, Elder Akyaaba, we know about the heart and the dream of Kwame Nkrumah, and there were those who were going through the universities and were studying the sciences so that Africa could be great. But then, the vision was taken away when Kwame Nkrumah was taken away. That must have been a painful time for Ghana and for those who believed in what Kwame Nkrumah stood for. I wonder if you could, give us a sense of, what happened and why it was that so many great geniuses like yourself, like Dr. Thomas Mensah, ended up having to leave, Ghana, where they had a dream and a vision, to make the light of Africa.
Thank you very much, my sister. Thomas Mensah's name and life fills me with great pain. We are products of the Nkrumah generation and the Nkrumah regime. Without Nkrumah and what they did in Ghana, we would not have been what we are, or what Dr. Thomas Mensah was and still is. Nkrumah's regime or government created the conditions for us growing up in Kumasi, that is the capital of Asante, which the British call Ashanti, but it's Asante. And Asante, Kumasi was burnt 3 times by the British. That is another issue. So Kumasi has seen a lot and has fought and resisted British colonization until 1902, when Yasantua was defeated. And Thomas Mensah and I, we were born and grew up in that period, and also around the same neighborhoods in Ashanti New Town, Asawase corridor, with the Manshia Palace, the King's Palace in the middle. That is how our growth was, with culture, with politics, and everything. Then we went to one of the best secondary schools in the country, called Addis-Ababa College. I was 2 years ahead of Thomas Mensah, so I was his senior. And he came from a family. The father was a cocoa producer and also a cocoa dealer and seller. He supplied cocoa to cocoa manufacturing factories in France. So from young age, Thomas Mensah started speaking French because there were a lot of French people around the father. So he came to Addis-Ababa and was talking everything French. Apart from that, he was brilliant in all subjects. And also, he was a musician and somebody who also spoke his mind. Very, very not afraid and speaking his mind. And we came from that generation where the politics leading to the independence of Ghana in 1957 was highly charged between those who were on the side of the British and those who wanted the British out. There were those who believed that the British had not trained us enough to take our own life in our hands. But Nkrumah was saying, self-government now. We prefer self-government with danger than living in tranquility, in servitude, in tranquility. We didn't want to serve the white man anymore. We wanted to take our destiny in our own hands. So it was a tough period, and terrorism reared its head, where Nkrumah's party faced a lot of bomb attacks and all that. And strangely enough, what has come out recently is that after the British took over Palestinian land and gave it to the Jews, the Zionists, in 1948, those team of terrorists that were specially trained by the British, that's British terrorists, who were terrorizing the villages and towns in Palestine and making life unbearable, 7 of them were sent to Ghana. And these 7, they were teaching the opposition how to make life unbearable. This has come to light recently.
Wow.
So we grew up in that mode of high political tension and struggle for us to gain independence. So as soon as Nkrumah we gained independence, they made sure that they were establishing institutions that will help Ghana to train its own people and be self-reliant. So they came with the Ghana Education Trust and then provided bursaries and scholarships to enable people from all backgrounds. I came from a very, very poor background, but I managed to pass the common entrance and got admission to one of the best secondary schools in the country, called Addai-Sebo College, where Thomas also went. So without Nkrumah and their enlightened leadership, I will not be speaking to you today. And neither would we have this special program also to honor Thomas Mensah. So I recall very well when Nkrumah was overthrown in 1966, February 1966. In the morning of 1966, we were waking up and listening to martial music and a voice coming on the radio that the myth of Nkrumah has been broken. The army and the police has taken over the country. I was so angry and agitated. And I was a young pioneer. So I mobilized the young pioneers, and which Thomas joined, for us to go to town to go and resist the coup. We were young, 15, 16, 10, 12, 11, and all that, very young. But we had the presence of mind that what has happened is not good for Ghana, so we have to resist it. So when people say that the 1966 coup, Ghanaians did not resist, please, It is not true, because I know myself that I organized the young pioneers to go into town to go and resist. And Thomas Mensah was part of the team that marched into town, but we were stopped in our tracks by the headmaster. So this was the Thomas Mensah, and he got a scholarship. He went to the University of Science and Technology that Nkrumah built as University of Science and Technology. Science and technology, to train scientists and technicians to build Ghana. And he went there and studied chemical engineering. And he passed very well. And he got a scholarship to go to France, to go and continue. So you look at the trajectory and the conditions that prevailed, because the Nkrumah regime made it possible for us to advance. But please permit me to say something before I forget. Nkrumah set up a university called University of Science and Technology. But today, if you go to that university, the university has basically been turned into a liberal arts institution, which is graduating more people in the social sciences than in science and technology. It has been bastardized with the support of the European countries and the United States of America. So you have people graduating in religious studies, in social sciences, and it's terrible. So the accent on science and technology has been basically bastardized and corrupted. This is the Ghana that we are in now. And it's not only in Ghana, it's happening all over. So what Nkrumah represented, my generation, we have betrayed Nkrumah. Because growing up, as soon as you went to the university, you knew that when you graduated, you had a job waiting for you. You had a bungalow for you. You had a car. It was possible. But now it is not so. And most people who went outside to study, they will come back home to contribute. They didn't want to stay in Europe or in America or in the Soviet Union. They'll come back home to come and help. But that spirit is gone. But now we are becoming supplier of labor and intellectual labor also, nurses, teachers, and all to Europe, US, doctors, and all, and to Britain, and to France, all over the world. So this is the condition that we are in. So we are talking about Thomas Mensah. So Dr. Thomas Mensah came back to Ghana. Something pulled him back to Ghana. And he came back to Ghana. And I met him. That's about 4 or 5 years ago. And I took him around to see leading members of the government. He saw the Minister for Science and Technology and Environment. Then I took him also to see the chairperson of the Cabinet Committee on Infrastructure. They received him, and he talked about his vision, what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
They listened to him, and they will give him appointments. We'll see you again. And I did that and came to London. And he will go to places, talking, introducing what he wanted to do. But there was something that was driving him that I noticed. That he wanted to leave something behind very quickly. He wanted to leave something behind. And listening to him, talking to young people, all that he was saying was that, look at me, Thomas Mensah, look at me. Look at me. Born in Kumasi, in Ashanti New Town in Kumasi. And I am an inventor. I have helped with the development of fiber optics, nanotechnology. If I have done it, you can do it. That nothing should hold you back, that you cannot achieve what you set your mind to do. And he will use himself as an example to inspire the young ones. Then I saw that he was not making headways. He was saying that, look, traveling from one place to the other is hell in Africa, particularly in Ghana. The roads are bad. And the railway system that Nkrumah was developing has been collapsed. And the air, travel by air also was destroyed. Internal travel. So communication is critical. So let's go for high-speed trains, bullet trains. And he says, I have helped China to develop bullet trains. Why can't I help Ghana? If I have helped China, why can't I help Ghana? Mm-hmm. And bullet trains that can bridge travel, commerce, trade, tourism, and everything. They will listen to him. Then he will say, not only that, I have attained a certain level of respect in the scientific world in the US. So my presence here also will give comfort to those who are running the technology giants, running the Silicon Valley. They all know me. I'm friends to them. So I can say that the conditions in Ghana, I said that if you come and set up, and they will. But unfortunately, our leaders were not ready for Thomas Mensah. What I got to know was that they were killing Chinese whispers to kill his spirits. But he was someone that was so determined that you could not kill his spirit. What they were saying was that, where is his money? That was all that they were thinking about. But the intellect and the knowledge, the patterns that he has made was not important to them, but the money. The money. Is he a conduit for bringing in money so that they can get their 10%, their 20%, their cuts also? And this technology too, if you want to bring it, we should have a cut in it. We have to have our own cut. So they really did not support him. So he took his message to the young ones, trying to inspire them. And I realized that he knew that he was not going to last long. He knew that he was not going to last long. But before he left, he died, he would have inspired a lot of young people that if he did it, they can do far better. They can, at that time in the 60s and all that, and he managed to triumph. Then what was so disturbing that I don't want to mention names now, but some of my own colleagues, even some of my own classmates, year group, were saying that Thomas Mensah was a fake.
Wow.
Yes, was a fake. It is not true that he's done this, he's done that, he's done that.
Yeah.
The evidence was there, but still, they doubted him.
Yeah.
And I know a very important member of the government now who, when they read the tribute that I wrote about Dr. Mensah, they called me and told me that they have evidence that he's a fake, it's not true, and all that. And I said, how can it be? I said, I know Dr. Mensah, and I visited him in Atlanta. And his offices, the research work that he was doing, and all that, he took me around. So I am a witness to what Dr. Thomas Mensah is capable of doing. Not only that, but I have come across people like Thomas Mensah who work hard, and the whites that they work with try to take credit for most of the work that they have done. The same thing that Louis Latimer, the problem that he had with Thomas Edison, it's the same. It's the same. Being repeated. Without Louis Latimer, where would Thomas Edison have been? Without Louis Latimer, an African, where would Thomas Edison have been? But Thomas Edison is credited with electricity, the light, and everything. The lighting system in New York, in Amsterdam, in London, who set it up? It was Louis Latimer. But we had to fight and unearth him and give him the credit. That was the same problem that Thomas Mensah faced. A black man, an African, being the one leading light on superconducting technology and nanotechnology. It's not strange, because I know of another Jamaican, African, who was born in Jamaica. I know him. He lived in South Norwood. And by 1986, he was about 15 to 20 years ahead of the Japanese in superconducting technology. And his prototype superconductor is permanently exhibited at the Science Museum in London.
What was his name? Can you call his name?
You have to come up with that name. I want the listeners to come up with that name, because it's a proud African who was born in Jamaica, brought up in the UK, and he set up the company called Basic Volume.
Basic Volume.
And the Welsh Development Corporation, the British, English, and all of them, they wanted him. But Dr. Tim Tavares, he will say that no, it's Africa and the Caribbean that needs that technology. He will talk to his government in Jamaica, and they were frustrated, they wouldn't want to know. Then I featured him in the book, Our Story. And I said, Tim, I'll get you to Africa. That was all his dream, to impart his technology to Africa.
Mm.
So I arranged for Tim to go to Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. He was received, but they did not see his value. They wanted him to lecture. He wanted to set up a scientific laboratory, and that he will help people to invent and make things. But they didn't understand him. That was Tim Tavares, that he died about 7 years ago. And not able, my goodness. So the same thing. So I speak about Thomas Mensah with a lot of pain in my heart, because we waste talent and skills. We waste them. And that was what Nkrumah set up the University of Science and Technology, so that we could be the deciders of our own fate and destiny, control our own resources and our technological leaps and bounds to catch up and surpass the world. And that was what Nkrumah was doing. And Dr. Thomas Mensah was a product of what Nkrumah established at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Dr. Thomas Mensah is a product of that. And because Nkrumah and his generation, they made it possible and created conditions for Dr. Thomas Mensah to excel. And that seed that was sown in him, and that sense of self-pride, learning about Marcus Garvey and all that, the meaning of the Black Star Lines, the Ghana Airways and all that, that was taught to us in the secondary school, imbibed in us. It was that made Thomas Mensah also a scientific genius that America and the world is benefiting from now. This medium that we are using is because of his technology. Mm-hmm. That's why we are able to communicate and talk and all that with the clear pictures and all that. It's because of Thomas Mensah's work. And when I say Thomas Mensah, please, sometimes some people say that, how can you say that Thomas Mensah himself said that he was a leading technical scientist in the field of superconducting technology, in the field of nanotechnology. Why would you doubt? Why would you doubt? Because I went down to Atlanta and I saw what he was doing and the time he had to work 10 times harder, 10 times harder, and he was not afraid of hard work. And it is as a result of that hard work that he was able to make a breakthrough, a problem that they were dealing with and they could not handle. The same way that Louis Latimer, Thomas Edison, they swept the lamp pump, they switch it on, boom, it goes off. Switch it on, boom, it goes off. And Louis Latimer sat down. When they close, he won't go home. He will sit down and work and work and work and work, and he developed the filament that made the light to stay on. That was the same thing, but what do we call it? The technology, Latimer registered it, Thomas Edison registered it in his name, and he is taking credit for it. Okay? But Thomas Mensah, of course, has studied the life of Louis Latimer, and likewise Nikola Tesla, a scientific and electrical and electronic genius who is credited for having electrified the world. Not Thomas Edison. He also suffered. So there are all these examples. So I speak about Thomas Mensah with pain, with anger, because Ghana did not receive their own son, like Jamaica did not receive their own son, who was over 10 years ahead of the Japanese in superconducting technology in the 1980s, please, 1980s. Please, this is Thomas Mensah.
You know, Elder Akyaaba, it's very painful indeed to know that we have these greats among us, these geniuses that are not being given the recognition and the credit that they do in their own homes. I want to rise up our young brother in the house, Ghana, Africa in Focus. He was talking about the number of Ghanaians who are leaving Ghana in droves, in their thousands, he said. You know, highly skilled, highly qualified professional Ghanaians are leaving Ghana for Europe. So obviously they're taking all those skills and talents with them. And here we are talking about one of our greats who, you know, established himself abroad because, you know, he couldn't do so at home. And even after establishing himself abroad and having all of those patents and all of the great, you know, technological advances under his wing, so to speak, he comes back home now, you know, with the dream of realizing or elevating Ghana technologically. And he gets the fight from his own people who just don't seem to be able to see goodness and value in their own people. But Mickey was a Chinese man or an American European who was coming and saying that they are, you know, technologically advanced in science and all the rest of it. And the doors would be swung open for them. I mean, what is our problem, family? Are you hearing what's going on here? Oh, wow. So let me just quickly go over to an article that I've got here. So we're talking about Dr. Thomas Mensah, a renowned Ghanaian inventor who revolutionized the field of fiber optics. He was with us until, sadly, he passed away on the 27th of March, 2024, at the age of 74 after a short illness. And, you know, it was his groundbreaking work in fiber optics that made the significant contributions to the field of telecommunications. And it actually paved the way for advancements in high-speed internet and digital communication. It was his innovation, it was his inventions that revolutionized data transmission, communication systems, enabling faster and more efficient connectivity across the globe. This young African, born in Kumasi in Ghana, pursued an education in Ghana and then in the United States, earning himself a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from the University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, and later obtaining a master's degree in Massachusetts. And so, you know, homegrown talent, someone who had a heart for his home as well. And, you know, he continued to make his mark in the scientific world. He got a PhD in chemical engineering from the University of Akron, and he led a very distinguished career as well, held numerous patents. I think I read somewhere he had about 7 patents to his name, and authored a number of books as well on fiber optics and other advanced technologies. And his work, you know, not only improved the telecommunications globally, you know, around the world, but it also opened doors for new industries as well, including healthcare, transportation, and entertainment. All those industries are significantly changed technologically as a result of his work. Remarkable achievements during his lifetime. And although he received, you know, the recognition and maybe the accolade, you know, in the Western world, he went home and we're hearing that, you know, he didn't receive the honor and prestige that he should have in his own home. And we have a similar example in Jamaica as well. And is it not the case that we have numerous great innovators and scientists across the continent of Africa who are not getting the recognition that they deserve at home and are having to go abroad so that they can develop the prototype and develop the technology for their innovation? And then we hear these really awful stories of some of these great innovators being poisoned, being murdered, because the West doesn't want our people to have that knowledge. But imagine, you know, if our leaders were to get together behind our innovators and were, you know, to give them the credit, the recognition, and the investment that they deserve, so that they could share their knowledge, so that they could share, you know, their insights into the technology 10 years ahead of the Japanese, you know, and we are already there, light years ahead of all of these other nations, some of our young scientists and entrepreneurs, because they're coming up with cars that can run off of water, that can run off of radio waves, TVs that don't need to be plugged in, helicopters that can fly on radio waves. We've got the engineers, the scientists, the innovators. But clearly what we don't have at a governmental level, and we're getting that insight here, you know, and it's such a great loss to our nations because our leaders don't value their innovators, you know, and these innovators and these great ones are so highly valued abroad. They're taking their skills abroad and they're developing the West. And then Africa's looking on at the West, which has been so highly advanced, and not recognizing that it's their own people, you know, with the skills that we have as Africans, that we're investing in the West, that's bringing about the kind of advances that Africa itself wants to see. I watched a number of interviews. I mean, Dr. Mensah, you know, he was packing in the interviews and he was delivering presentations to young people up and down Ghana, as our elder said, as if he knew time was against him, you know, because he wanted to inspire the next generation. He wanted to let them know that he was the one behind all of this innovation. And if he could do it from a young lad in Ghana, so could they. You know, so he was sharing his experiences with the students, inspiring young scientists of tomorrow. And I certainly hope that many, many were inspired by this great man who is such a loss to Ghana and the scientific world as a whole. And the sad thing is, Elder Akyaaba, you know, that probably even now Ghana doesn't even realize the great man that they had in their midst. And there are probably many others like him as well, you know, on the continent who are not getting the recognition that they deserve at home. What can we do? What more can we do? Family, I welcome your suggestions in the chat as well. What can we do so that these great ones, you know, don't have to leave their own country, but, you know, can be great in their own lands and can, you know, introduce things like the bullet train that goes at 230 miles per hour across Ghana. Why not across the whole of Africa? We can do it. I mean, where is Ghana now with that bullet train, Dr. Akyaaba?
No, Ghana invited some people from Turkey and others to come and set up no, they are not interested in the bullet train. The government is not interested in the bullet train. They are not investing in the bullet train. No, no. Because you see, that is the tragedy of my generation. Those in power running the country now, they are of my generation. And what hurts so much is that they benefited from the Nkrumah generation. Nkrumah generation made it possible for them to be educated in the best universities in the world, in Cambridge, in Oxford, MIT, and name it. We were sent out to be educated. Then we came over and took power in 1981. From January 1982 to the present, it's my generation that has taken over power and running Ghana to the ruins. What happened? And it's something that sociologists, psychiatrists, anthropologists, social scientists, we have to study. What happened? Why has my generation betrayed Ghana and Africa? How can my generation, my own president, sit with an American Secretary of State and snitch on your own neighbor, Niger, Burkina Faso? Oh, so what is wrong? And the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, is my generation. How can he do that? But it is the reality, it is happening. So that's what I keep saying, the importance of Nkrumah and Ghana. Please, I want to keep stressing that if you don't have a liberated territory, yeah, my brother, if you don't have a liberated territory, you cannot achieve much. Ghana was a liberated territory, and Nkrumah utilized the resources of Ghana towards the total liberation and unification of the African continent and also the Caribbean. Please make this very distinct understanding. Please, it's very important that you have a territory that is liberated, and we don't have any now. A territory that speaks truth to power, like Nkrumah, Ghana under Nkrumah. There was no way that under Nkrumah you will discover rich deposits of lithium in your country. And then you hand it over to an Australian startup firm that has no history in lithium technology, extraction, processing, and development. And what did they get? They got less than 10% interest, carried interest. And the Australians and the others, they're selling them out. And this was signed 2 years ago under the presidency of Nana Akufo-Addo, President Akufo-Addo. So it is such a person who can go to the US and sit down with the Secretary of State and snitch on another African state. That is the reality we are faced with. And it is my own generation again that set up what they call the Divestiture Implementation Committee to divest Ghana of its industrial, manufacturing, research, and development assets. So there were over 200-300 factories that Nkrumah established. And the IMF told them that these were prestigious, so just divest them, privatize them, close them down, and they went ahead and did that. That is my own generation. And that leadership of my generation is still running Ghana now.
Do you see any hope? I mean, when you look to what's happening in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, Senegal, younger leaders coming in with a vision for their country, for their people, and hopefully ultimately for the continent, you know, we all hope that a younger, you know, more enlightened new government will come in countries like Nigeria and Ghana as well. You know, are there any prospects that you see at the moment for a new, younger, more enlightened opposition in Ghana taking root right now? We need change, that's for sure.
It's very, very difficult. But let's address the issue of the sister states of the Sahel. I call them SSS, the sister states of the Sahel. That's how I call them. And these sister states their success depends on you and I. Please, the Americans and their NATO allies and France, they are working night and day to make sure that they don't succeed.
That's for sure.
So what are we doing night and day to make sure that they succeed? We always have to remember the example of Grenada under Maurice Bishop. Grenada was alone and did not have allies. So they could have. The same thing happened to Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. He was alone. But things have changed. Now we have 3 young people coming together. That is progress.
Yes. Possibly a 4th with Senegal.
But that also has its antecedents in what Nkrumah, Modibo Keita, and Sekou Touré they tried to do with the Ghana-Guinea-Mali Union. And Burkina Faso was supposed to join in 1966, and the coup took place in February 66 and destroyed that. So it is that spirit that has come forward.
Yeah.
But please, let's look at Cuba. Cuba touched our hearts. And we formed brigades all over in the US and Europe and sent people to go to Cuba to let Cubans know that they are not alone. It has come to the sister states of the Sahel. What are we doing?
Well, the good news is we have to big up our beloved sister Arikana Chimboy. Yes,
she's been there. Yes,
she was there recently, letting them know
that is not enough. That is not enough.
We've all got to go, have we? We've all got to make that trip.
Apart from that, we have to tell Britain that tell France to get their hands off. You, Britain, take your hands off. America, take your hands off. Germany, take your hands off. Canada, take your hands off. Australia, take your hands off. Of the sister states of Sahel. Let's make it possible for them to have a breathing space to organize themselves and consolidate and stabilize. It is our responsibility to do that. We did that against apartheid. We stayed a vigil at the South African embassy for how long? How many years? We did so. So what about the sister states? What are we doing in Paris? What are we doing in Washington, D.C.? What are we doing in London? What are we doing in Germany, all over the place, Canada and all that? What are we doing?
What are we doing? Yes.
We have to let them know that we don't support you undermining what is going on. It is that awakening that will give our sister states of the Sahel the breathing space that they need to consolidate what they have gained. And that is our responsibility. I don't know whether I am driving home our responsibility.
You have. Thank you so much for that. You've
We
made it
have to boycott some French good. We have to boycott French wine, just take one commodity. French wine, boycott French wine. Boycott French wine. Tell people not to buy French wine. If you don't buy French wine, there's South African wine. There's an alternative. So it's a psychology of boycott is very, very important. Please, let's do so. It's very, very important.
So there's something that
all when you hit the economy, that is where they start panicking.
Okay, thank you for that. You know, good advice there, our beloved elder. So we can all do something. Let's go over to the chat, and I just want to highlight a few questions. Let's see what's going on in there. Kwame is saying, speak it, Baba Ade, speak it. Yes, he is indeed. And we want to welcome AIMSO TV. Africa needs to shut its borders to all foreigners and develop itself inside out like Cuba did. What do you say to that? Is it possible for Africa today to close its borders to foreigners? Because foreigners are all over Africa. All these companies, manufacturing companies, mining companies, you know, all the raw minerals and resources that's coming out on a daily basis by air, by sea, by road. You know, can Africa really close its doors to foreigners today? We're seeing the big challenge that Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali are having, trying to rid themselves of the French and the US Army forces that have been wreaking havoc on their borders, in their borders from time. And, you know, we see what the foreigners are doing in Sudan and in the Congo. Can the continent really close its doors, Elder Chaba, to foreigners so that it could develop itself? What say you?
The only way that you can close the borders is to liberate yourselves. What we have now as Ghana, as Nigeria, as Tanzania, as South Africa, as Zimbabwe, they don't represent our interests. They represent the interests of the metropolis. That is the colonial master. They are back. So the question of liberation is back on the table. Please, listen to me carefully. The question of liberation is back on the table. And Africans in the diaspora, that is what you have to understand their role. Those countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, that were organizing themselves at the instance of the US and its NATO allies to invade Niger, Burkina Faso. These are not African countries. They are not African countries. So what can you talk to about borders? No, it wouldn't work. Look at how our traders are harassed along the borders. It's still going on, night and day. It wouldn't work unless we liberate. We have to decolonize. Africa has been recolonized. So we have to organize ourselves like the Nkrumahs, Jomo Kenyatta's, and others, CLR James, Padmos, Wallace Johnson's, and others did in Manchester, 1945. Next year will be the 80th anniversary of the 5th Pan-African Congress that lit the fuse of African liberation. So please, we have to address the question of liberating Africa and reshaping the countries after our own image, interest, and security. That is the challenge facing us. And this must ring very true in every mind of a Pan-Africanist. If you call yourself a Pan-Africanist, that is the responsibility. Nigeria has to be liberated. Ghana has to be liberated. Tanzania has to be liberated. Zimbabwe has to be liberated. This is the reality facing us.
Yes.
Please, the governments there are not in our interest. They are serving the interests of the white supremacists.
Yes,
Serving the interests of the white supremacists. So they have to go. So we have to organize ourselves, particularly you in the diaspora. You know who the white supremacists is. You know them. You are living with the Zionists that are terrorizing Palestine. You know them. And you have to strive hard to wake us up in Africa. Join hands and come back with the mind that we are coming back, not accepting the mess that is going on, the filth that surrounds us. Our cities, Accra is choked with filth. It's a disgrace. And that's the gold, the diamond, the bauxite, the lithium are going out every day. They're taking it out and say we are poor. And we can't supply electricity for us, our own use. That is the shame. And that's just the betrayal of my generation, generation. And that is what Thomas Mensah experienced. And he was trying to awaken the youth. Please, have confidence in yourself and believe that you can make a change. You can make a change. Do not accept the conditions that you live in, that you wake up in the morning as a youth and you have nothing to look forward to, only hopelessness.
We've got to be that.
And all that you think is how to migrate.
Wow. Elder Akyaaba, I'm just going to jump over to the chat again. Let's see what comments we've got from some of our viewers. Sister Betty's in the house. Rise up. She's saying, we Africans have everything we need to care for ourselves. We have no friends in this world. She's reminding us, yes, we have no friends in this world. Our elders just having some technicals there. Hopefully he'll be right back with us in a little while. Yes, our elder's back with us. Take yourself off mute, please, Elder Akyaaba. You are back with us, but you are on mute at the moment. And so, yes, absolutely agree with you, Sister Betty. As Africans, we have everything that we need. And I agree. We have no friends. Let's see, one or two other comments. We can join the matches carry the flag of the genocide of the Congo side by side with those flags of Palestine. Okay. So there's the marches. Yes, of course, there are many marches that are happening right now in support of Palestine. Why not join those marches and take the flag of the Congo and the flag of Sudan to represent the genocide that's happening in our African countries there as well? Agree with Brother El. Unity is our strength indeed. Just going through one or two of the comments in the chat, our elder. I want to thank everybody for the comments that they've been making and the contributions and the discussions that you're having in the chat. So Lumkwa, thank you so much for your suggestion there. Carry the flag, of the Congo. Carry the flag, I will add, of Sudan to represent the genocide that's happening in those regions when you attend those Palestinian marches. Absolutely agree. There was a comment here as well by our young Kwame who actually put some monetary value to the lithium. Here it is. He said that the lithium is worth 1.5 trillion USD, but Akufo Addo sold it for 1 billion. I mean, what is wrong with the minds of those elders? Like you said earlier, is it just for the 10%? They're prepared to sell out their entire country? What is wrong with that, the mindset of that generation? And our elder has reminded us what we need to be doing as a people. If we want to see Africa liberated, we're going to have to talk liberation, walk liberation. We're going to have to dream about Africa being liberated. We're going to have to be the light, shining the torch for liberation, speaking liberation in all of our talks and in all that we do. We have got to talk it until it begins to happen. We have got to bring it into existence, just like our ancestor did in the late 50s before Africa won its independence to the extent that it did. There was an energy on the ground. People were calling for liberation, marching for liberation, talking liberation, planning and organizing for liberation. All of that has got to precede the changes that we want to see. And we all need to ask ourselves, what is it that we are not doing but can be doing to help ensure that we get a liberated Africa? And very, very importantly, with all of that, we've got to liberate our minds, because for as long as we continue to have a colonized mind, then we're not going to see the value and the greatness in our scientists, in ones like Dr Mensah. We have these greats among us. Just imagine, South Norwood is not too far from where I am in London, and we had that great Jamaican there, who was a great scientist living next to us. How are we elevating our scientists? Where are the scientists here in the UK? Are we providing a platform so that they can talk about their great inventions and their talents? If not, that's certainly something that we need to be doing. And very importantly as well, as our brother Chaba was saying, we've got to make the West know that we stand with countries like Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, and that these Europeans must keep their hands off. We support the Triple S sisters. And we can add Senegal. There's 4 of them now. There's another S, Senegal.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, the quad sisters, the quadruple S. We've got to support them. Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Niger, and Senegal. We have to stand with them and support them. These are leaders not with a kingdom mentality, but with an empire mentality. They are recreating the boundaries of the old Mali Empire. And we need to see Gambia swallowed up in there as well. Gambia is almost insignificant, borrowing until it can't borrow no more, putting future generations in debt so that today's politicians can line their pockets. Wow. As we press towards the top of the second hour, We knew the time would fly by, and it certainly has flown by indeed. Just to remind you that the great Thomas Mensah, who we're talking about today, wrote a number of books, and you can get one of his books. One of his books is called The Right Stuff Comes in Black Too. And that's just reminding us of our greatness. So, and he's also done another book, Nanotechnology Commercialization, another one of his books. You wanted to jump in here, Elder Akyaaba.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. We're hearing you.
Just reflect on the title. Just reflect on the title.
Yeah. The right stuff comes in black too. Imagine we're having to even say that, But yeah, it's to remind us and our leaders and our people that, we could be looking at a brother and sister and seeing greatness.
The line is breaking up. The line is breaking up.
My apologies. It could be my end or your end.
It may be my end. It may be tired. Yeah. Sometimes we have low currents.
Oh.
And then go down, and it affects transmission and all that. But just think about the title of the book and why he chose that title. But you see, there's something that has happened to us that you cannot talk about your own achievements. Others have to speak for you. So if you do that, then there's something wrong with you. You see, so, and that is what I find with my colleagues. I ask, is it jealousy? What is it? Why? But we were classmates, we were playmates. And whatever it is at school, he was intellectually far superior than some of us. And it is a fact. And I accept that fact. He excelled. He studied. Not that he played around too. He was a good musician, a trumpeter, a trombonist. He was part of the school jazz club. You see, Thomas Mensah. So why should my own mates speak so ill, even after his death? Why? I don't understand. Down with lies that he's fake. He's a liar. That is why in my piece, I reminded the world that he decided to take on the style of Muhammad Ali. He has his own mouth. I am beautiful. I am beautiful. Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
He didn't wait for the white man to tell him that he's beautiful. I'm beautiful. I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Muhammad Ali. Paul Robeson. Yes. So you have to do it. Yes. And that is what Thomas Mensah had to employ that practice. Otherwise, he would have been lost. They paid him enough for him to survive, to live decently, but they did not pay him enough for him to set up his own industry, laboratory, and all that. And that was Tim Tavares. Tim will come to me and say, my brother, I need only $250,000 or pounds sterling, and we can make a difference in this world. 250,000.
Where are our investors?
That's what
Where are
Tim
millionaires who
told
could
me. And I believed him. I believed Tim Tavares. I believed him. In the same way that I believe in Thomas Mensah. So when he came to Ghana, I took him to the chairperson of the Cabinet Infrastructure Committee. And what was Thomas Mensah talking about? Infrastructure development.
Elder Chaba, I've come across an article that says that this ultra-modern Ghanaian train made in Poland finally arrives in Ghana. Is that anything like
No,
the bullet
it has
train?
nothing to do with no, not
So
the
we
train.
went to we sidestepped our great
no. They went for an inferior system. But please, these leaders in Ghana, leaders who will collapse their own industries, what would you expect of them? Please, you can't expect anything inspiring and generational from my generation, the leadership of my generation.
Change. Yeah.
We have to be overthrown. We have to be kicked out. We have to be kicked out as it has happened in Nigeria, in Burkina Faso, in Senegal, in Guinea.
I'm sorry.
What is had to happen?
Yes, agree with you.
You have to organize and kick us.
Yes. You heard it from an elder who says we have to organize. Young people need to organize and kick out the elders. Anthony Lowe is saying the youth have to start asking why they are not benefiting from their resources and start holding them to account. Most definitely. The Jamaican drunkard is saying, enough respect to you, our elder. You know, slavery was not the destruction of our bodies, it was the destruction of our mind. Absolutely agree. Hence why we need to liberate and decolonize our mind as well. We are at the top of the hour now, Elder. We have been talking for 2 hours. You didn't think you'd last the 2 hours, but you have. And I get the feeling that you have so much more inside of you. So we're going to have to invite you back. We thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing, your personal experience of the great man who's recently left us, Thomas Mensah. And may we all remember his name, his works, and may we all be inspired by him as well. And family, please tell your children about this great man as well. To all you, every one of you in the audience who have been participating in the conversation, and those who have just been listening and maybe not been engaging in the chat, we thank you so much. To our special guest today, our esteemed Elder Akyaaba Addai-Sebo, who is the founder of Black History Month in the UK. We thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again. Thank you, family. All being well, I will be back same time next Wednesday from 8 p.m. through to 10 p.m. UK time. Bye for now. Bye for now, family. Thank you, Elder.
Thank you.